about tools, it's going to be about AI authority, and it's the role it plays in being leaders in the world where we are now focused so much on AI, leading with AI. You're going to watch me play around here with my screen a little bit. One of my monitors is down, so I'm taking a different path to get from one screen to the next. So my apology if I'm a little clumsy here in the beginning. So one of the things I want to point out is that executives no longer compete on technology alone. For a long time, for quite some time, executives have really competed around technology and what can we do to automate and make things more sophisticated inside of our organizations and within our teams. They compete on defining what AI means now, and that is basically we're now competing from a leadership perspective on what does AI mean to employees, to customers, investors, inventors, vendors, and regulators. The World Economic Forum confirms that executive level AI narrative leadership now directly impacts trust and adoption. And when we're living in what is being referred to as a post-truth or post-trust world, that's become particularly important because it's harder and harder for people to sell things, for organizations to sell things, because there's so many different ways that facts are used or non-facts are used nowadays that people question everything. As we leverage AI, a lot of people have issues with how AI is being leveraged. So again, how we communicate what AI means and what it means to our business and how we leverage it and what it means to our organization and the people within it and to ourselves becomes particularly important. So if I were to pose the question to you, or let's just think about it for a minute. If someone inside your company asked, what does AI mean for us? Would they quote you? Would you have played a role in how they define what AI means to us? And if you were to step away from that for a moment and think, what kind of answers do you think you would get? So those are rhetorical. I don't expect any answers to that. But think about that, because the role you're playing with regard to AI in your organization is going to come back to you. If you're in a really large organization, then your sphere may be smaller. If you're in a smaller organization, you may be the owner, the founder, the president, some senior executive or a manager, and you're going to have input and you're going to help define what it means, if no further than just to your department. And so think about the answers you would get. Also, think about if you were to go and search AI plus your company. How would your company look? How is it helping define what AI is to your customers, to your vendors, to everybody that's out there that might want to know, how does your company play into this? So as we go today, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at how we can play a bigger part in helping to communicate that message, both from a perspective of us as an AI leader and as our organization, and from the perspective of our organization. Harvard Business Review suggests that digital and AI transformation fails primarily due to cultural resistance and lack of leadership alignment, or the way I look at it, lack of leadership narrative clarity. It's not a technology problem. Too often, people try to blame it on technology, but it's not a technology problem. It truly is a leadership problem and a communication problem in most cases. And we'll talk a little more about that, because if leaders don't define the story, someone else is going to define the story. And if you think about it, artifacts that we pass on are stories. People follow stories before they follow systems. So it's important that we're helping to clarify the message around AI from a leadership perspective. When leadership is silent, fear fills the vacuum. Have you ever noticed that in an organization, if there's ever a rumor gets out there about a riff, man, it just goes like wildfire. And everybody's out there filling in their own information till management, somebody in leadership inside the organization helps to clarify there either is going to be a riff, it's going to be a small riff, what's the riff going to look like? Because until that happens, people will fill that vacuum with their own stories, and stories go wild. So if you think about it, who currently defines AI inside your organization? Is it you? Is it IT? Or is it the rumor mill? Let me ask that again. Who currently defines AI inside your organization? Is it you? Is it IT? or is it the rumor mill? And it's important that we know where that's coming from and who's impacting the message around AI inside of our organization. So AI adoption barriers are human and cultural before they are technical. And too often we try to make them technical and in the nature, and we blame it on technology. When employees fear replacement, surveillance, or loss of control, adoption collapses regardless of the tech quality. So let's look at the slide here for a minute. Psychology of AI adoption. People do not resist AI. They resist what they think AI will do to them. Fear is not technical. Fear is emotional. And it's important that we understand it's also identity-based and job-related. So people are going to fill in blanks if we're not communicating effectively inside our organization. So what do your people think AI will do for their status, for their job security, or professional identity? It's important that we think about that and that we control that message. I had to take something for a cold this morning and it has dried me out. So I apologize. I'm going to be taking a lot of drinks of water today. So AI adoption barriers. Let me check here for a minute. Hydration Nation. Let's see here. Let me see if I can get my slide to change here. There we go. Okay. So trust is built when leaders show purpose, limits, and ownership. McKinsey identifies governance, clarity, and accountability as core drivers of successful AI adoption. So it's important that when we look at these trust factors that we see here on the screen, that we understand how they impact trust. And that is pillar one, if we look here, or the different pillars versus the signals that they communicate. The first pillar is intent. What it signals is we use AI to amplify people, not replace them. And that's particularly important that we think from that human first perspective. And I talk a lot about human in the loop when I'm talking about things. Well, this is where we want to make sure that people inside our organization and people outside of our organization knows that we're not looking to get rid of people. We're not looking to replace people. We're looking to amplify what they already bring to the table. And AI is a great tool, great technology, great capability for being able to do just that, to amplify what we're already able to do. We also, the second pillar, boundaries. Here's what AI is not allowed to do. That's where we have our AI use policies, policies. We have our AI tools policies. We define what our organization does and does not do with AI, we let it do, because if we don't define it, then someone else is going to define it for us. And the last thing we want is for our organization to just be going all over the place and everybody using it however they want to do it, because they're definitely a need for us to have controls on what it is that we agree to inside of our organization. The other thing is looking at accountability. Who owns AI outcomes? So when we look across our organization, who is responsible for implementation of AI in our organization? Who is responsible at each individual level within departments and within employees? Who's responsible for AI outcomes? Ultimately, everyone who uses AI is responsible for their own outcomes. We talk about human in the loop. Every AI outcome is the responsibility of the person who prompted, asked the questions to the AI to get the answers. It is their responsibility to review the content and ensure the content is accurate, not the AI. We don't blame the AI because ultimately the human in the loop is the last line of defense. They are the people responsible. And it's important that we make sure people in our organizations understand that when we're using AI. And these convert fear into confidence if we leverage them correctly. Now, if we think about it, often AI projects die after pilots. And the reason they do this is due to poor value communication. And what I mean by that is often we have projects that are great successes and nobody ever communicates it. Or we have projects that failed and nobody communicates that they failed and the postmortem of why they failed. What can we learn from this so that we do better in the future? Executives must translate AI into business language. What is the value gained? Because I would argue there's value gained whether there's a success or a failure, because you can successfully learn from a failure to help you push your organization forward. Think of the Post-it note. That was one of the biggest failures ever, and look at it today and how we use it. So if you think about it, how many people in your company can explain what AI has improved in their daily work? What can you explain that AI has improved in your daily work? And this is where I'm going to ask for some input. If you would, you can either put it in the chat or you can come off of mute. I'd like to know one example of how AI has improved your daily work. And I know this is a group that, without a doubt, you're using AI and have improved many aspects of your work. And we're streaming today, so you get the opportunity to be famous outside of our little area today. So how have you used AI? So let's see here. We see that Mark shared here, coaching and team communication. Would you elaborate on how it's helped improve that? And while Mark's doing that, please, anybody else, don't hesitate to jump in. I'll share while Mark is adding to his comment in the chat. One of the ways that I've improved my daily work is I leverage AI as my thought partner. And by leveraging as my thought partner, I've been able to raise the level of my thought process. In some cases, I've created custom GPTs that I use in the process of my thinking to think through different things from different perspectives. But again, as the human in the loop, quite frankly, I'm the one that's elevating my thinking. I know there's a lot of talk out there about, oh, it'll dumb you down. If you use it correctly and you can ask questions that go deeper than you would have before. So it's important that you're the one driving what's happening and you're learning from it and you're going deeper. You're expanding your thought process. So Mark shared here, let's see, go back up here, that should be able to unmute. Oh, I see somebody said he should be able to unmute.
Alex unmuted me. Hey, Grady, good to meet you.
Hey.
So what I mean by that in terms of coaching and team communication, when we're conflicted with challenging situations and or team or people or anything where I don't have skills developed fully in those areas as I step up in my own personal career, I'm using ChatGPT as a coach to help me fully understand the context of what's going on. So I'll take in transcripts of meetings, I'll take in emails and text messages and help me to synthesize the information and come up with better solutions. I may be myopic in my thinking or biased in my understanding, and I'm leveraging AI to help me surface things that I may not have thought about and help me to look at. So you use the term thought partner. And so I'm absolutely doing that. I'm doing all the other stuff that most of the Chief AI Officer community is doing, but specifically what I'm doing is this notion of a CEO coach, somebody to help me really just fine tune my communication and my clarity of thinking, so that I don't kind of go off on the handle and get upset about something or misrespond to what somebody's actually trying to communicate because my own thinking or bias is structured. And then the other part of it is in communicating out the information. So we drink not from one fire hose at Chief AI Officer, but from multiple fire hoses, and it is damn near impossible to try and keep up with it and synthesize all of the change. So I use AI to help with that, and then be able to turn around and communicate that to the team, our clients, our community, so that we can really be talking about the issues that matter the most. So those are the two areas, besides all the other stuff that everyone uses. Those are the two areas that me as an individual, as a leader, those are the two areas that use it the most. So I hope that clarifies that.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate that. And I can see, and I apologize, I see NB13, and because the name's not attached, I
Yeah,
apologize.
hey guys. Yeah, I'm Nate. So yeah, the tongue in
Okay, well,
cheek
Nate,
yes,
thank you
yes,
here.
ChatGPT, but I've run our sales team, so I'm the sales director, and ChatGPT has really helped me with a really complex, long sales cycle for like a complex uh, sales team. Really get my arms around like what are our issues, boiling it down to the critical few, and helping us dialing and prioritize where our funnel's breaking down.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Nate. So anybody else? I don't see anybody else. So I'm going to go ahead and move on here. When we think
Grady.
about, somebody else? Russell?
Grady, I was just going to say, I sort of put down confidence and listening to Mark talk about coaching. I've just got when you've got the backup of AI, I can't believe how more present I am when coaching. And you can kind of feel, hear, and see 10 times more than you've ever seen because you know you've got your backup if you need it. And I've sort of go places in coaching now that I don't think I've ever been. So
Awesome. Awesome.
it's
So
human in the loop.
yeah, so exactly. Human in the loop amplifies who you are, what you're already able to do, because coaching being a process, then you're able to just go deeper, especially with clients who may have their own jargon in their own areas and different things like that. So thank you. Appreciate that. So if we think about communication and what communication is all about, fortunately, communication is based on formulas. So it makes it much, much easier for us as leaders to follow formulas and be able to communicate effectively. In this case, when we're talking about leading with AI and leading in AI, executives lead belief, not architecture. So we are basically leading the belief systems around around what's happening with AI and how we're using our organization. That's particularly important because other people play off of their leaders. One of the things I ask when I'm working with leadership teams or leadership councils or executive teams is I ask how they're leveraging AI in their thinking and decision making. When I hear crickets, that tells me that likely the rest of the organization doesn't have a clear direction in terms of how we're actually going to leverage inside of how we're leveraging AI or even the direction we're going. And if we can't position where we're at and how we're leveraging AI ourselves, then it's going to be virtually impossible for us to effectively lead. We're going to be coming from behind somebody else as opposed to leading in what we're doing. So value must be told in terms of outcomes, not infrastructure. And this is what I think is particularly important. I see a lot of consultants, a lot of companies that are selling the tools and how they're using them, but not what they've accomplished with it. What are your outcomes, not what is your infrastructure? I mean, you should go around and look at different websites that are associated with they're supposed to be really on it when it comes to AI, and they're telling you all about their tools. They're not telling you what outcomes they've actually achieved. So let's examine the AI win formula here for a moment and just think about how we could go about telling our story rather than providing a list of tools and we use these tools and we are compliant in this. Now, all of this stuff is important, but we can pack that all around our website. We can pack that in our agreements, our contracts, our brochures, and the little writing at the bottom. The AI win formula, if we think about it, every AI story must answer what was broken, what has changed or what changed, and what is now possible by the fact that we leveraged AI. If we think about when we're trying to sell our organization or sell ourselves, this AI story formula or AI win formula really should be what we're doing as well in terms of our products and everything else we're doing. But in particular, when we're talking about AI, we have to be able to tell inside our organization what was broken, what changed after we used AI, and what is now possible. And one of the things that I do is I train people who work with me on how to measure AI return on investment, because Nothing more powerful to go with it than numbers in terms of hours and time saved, amount of money that was gained as a result of it. But being able to communicate this, what was broken, what changed, and what is now possible is particularly important. We're not going to focus on, or we should not focus on, what model did we use. I used ChatGPT and we came up with an answer to a problem. That's not a good way of being able to communicate. Now, people want to know your tech stack and your formulas with it. So I'm not saying you can't give that, but we should lead with what's broken, what changed, and what's now possible. Again, not the model, not what tool, not what data set we leveraged, but what decision did we improve? And remember what I said, I asked the people at the top when I'm working with them, how are you leveraging AI to make better decisions? So what decision improved? What cost dropped? Return on investment. What speed increased? Return on investment. What risk was reduced? Again, a type of return on investment. Very important that we think about things from these perspectives so that we are focused on our wins. And the internal communication of wins are equally important to the external communication. But I wouldn't say one's more important, other than you can't move an organization if you're not communicating with inside that organization. So if we think about this perspective, then the World Economic Forum and the Harvard Business Review both show that companies perceived as AI leaders attract capital, talent, and partnerships faster. So let's think for a moment. The visibility creates credibility. So how are you being visible? Either in your communicating your leadership, thought leadership in AI, your organization's thought leadership. How are you increasing your visibility of you or your company? Credibility creates adoption. And the reality is, perception is reality. So if we're not out there, we're not visible, we're not creating that credibility, then perception of us is not going to be there. So our perception is going to be the reality of the people who are seeing us out there being visible. So think about it. If a journalist Googled, I already asked this question, but I'll ask it again. If a journalist Googled your company plus AI today, what story would appear? For each of you who are in consulting, for each of you who are in businesses that do things with AI, how would you come across? How would you appear? How do people that see you on LinkedIn, see you on social media, see you in newsletters, see you in print, see you in audio, see you in video, how are you being perceived when it comes to AI? If not favorable, think of it from the perspective as a leader. What would you like to appear, and what are your next steps to accomplish that? So very important, if you're not already where you want to be, what are the steps you need to take to get there? And I will say that AI is great for brainstorming and thinking through ways to be able to do it, and can really help you set up a plan for how can you, over the next 30 days, be able to change the impact that you're having with regard to AI thought leadership without it taking a lot for you to be able to do it. So leadership is not internal only. I will say it's important that we communicate in-house, because literally I know organizations that communicate to everybody but internally. And people that are inside the organizations are having to go outside to be able to find out what's going on inside the organization. And that's never good, because when those people are out going to conferences and engaging with vendors and engaging with others, they're helping to communicate about your business in every interaction they have. AI trust must be earned across the entire ecosystem. So we must think about internal, industry, and market. So let's look here at the three thought leadership lanes. We have first internal. So it's important to align staff and reduce fear, so that your staff inside the organization knows what you're doing, knows what's okay to be done inside your organization, and how you're leveraging AI, because then they can get excited about it. I'm always a big advocate for creating a vision of where we're going as an organization and exciting people so that they want to go and achieve something that's bigger than all of us in the process. Industry, position your firm as a pioneer, position yourself as a pioneer, position yourself as a thought leader. People buy from people. People learn from people. People trust from people. They don't trust from slogans. They don't trust from your copy. They trust ultimately from the people that they engage with. And in industry, when you're sending people out or it's you going out, it's important that you're positioning yourself and your firm and your people in general. I used to work for a university that for years sold their programs. Then they all of a sudden, they started making one-sheeters on each of the instructors. And guess what? They sold more people coming in, because when students would talk about courses and things they were doing, they were talking about their professors. They weren't talking about the specific courses, that were talking about their professor and why they made it come to life. So it was important to tie people to people, because it does help just about anything you're selling or positioning. And then the market, build investor, partner, and customer confidence is particularly important in terms of how you communicate things. So what can you do to bring about change? Which of these lanes is currently empty within your organization, or how you're having impact with regard to AI thought leadership? Where could you bring to bear a different approach so that you could actually have a greater impact and communicate what your position is? Because my guess is if we got into a discussion that each of us have different perspectives on different things with regard to AI. I think we all have a common understanding of AI, but my guess is that we might have a difference of opinion. We might, I don't know, maybe not on this call, but we might have a difference of opinion about how AI gets used in learning, or how AI gets used in decision making, or how we leverage AI inside of our organizations. But those different perspectives, it's important, because you are going to resonate with some and not with others. But it also, your position helps you become part of the conversation. So you're having an impact on where AI is going, even if within a small sphere. So this next step we're going to take, and I'm actually, Alex is going to give you a link in the chat box.
I sure am. Give me 1 second.
Okay. And this is going to be the AI Thought Leadership Plan. It's a handout that I made that'll go along with what we're going to do here. And I'm just going to move along through this with you having access to that. You'll have access to it, your own copy. So when it pops up and says make a copy or click to get a copy, it's so you have your own unique copy, and we're not all using off of one copy, where when somebody starts entering into it, we're all getting the same thing entered into it. I know you would not do that, but it happens on occasion. So I started doing this so that everybody gets their own copy. If you will need a Gmail account to be able to access this. If you don't have one, you can get one for free, but this way it's all stored in one place, and as things are updated, you'll get updates to it. And just as a point here, there will be a link provided at the end of the call that gives you access to this presentation that you'll be able to see. For that, I will pull down and ask Alex to help me remember that I need to give that to you before the end. For all of the Chief AI Officer Network, you'll have access to it inside of our Circle platform. But for those that are out there and about that just have access to the chat, I'll give it to you toward the end. So if we think about this, let's think about this sentence becomes your AI leadership narrative. And that is, we use AI to blank so that blank, while protecting blank. It defines our purpose, our values, and boundaries in one statement. So I have some examples that I'm going to share with you, just to give you an idea. The examples are actually, for those of you who have access to the AI Thought Leadership Plan, you can scroll to the end, and I provided the examples at the end so you can see these from different perspectives. We've got the human application leader, we've got the operational excellence leader, we have the innovation-driven leader, the customer-centric leader, and the workforce empowerment leader. Now, you can come up with your own focus. The idea is that you're communicating what is it that you're using AI for, so that you can do what and have impact on what, and then while protecting what. What are the safeguards we're putting in place, as we go forward and thinking about it from a human perspective, human-centered perspective, leveraging AI to amplify yourself and your organization. So as we think about these, let me look here. Actually, I tell you what, I did go over that really fast, and that was not my intention. Let me go back here. So if we think about, we'll use this, I like the human amplification, and hopefully everybody can see this. I think it's large enough that you can see it. If not, you have a copy of this particular handout. And that is human amplification leader is we use AI to remove low value work from our teams so that people can focus on judgment, creativity, and customer relationships while protecting meaningful human roles and career growth. And why it works is it frames AI as a force multiplier, not a job destroyer, and it reduces fear and increases adoption. So again, the communication is to help people understand what we're using it for, what is it that we gain from it, and what are we protecting as we do it. And we're framing it, in this case, to help allay fears inside of our organization that it's going to take their job. So we'll look at one more here. I'm going to do the customer centric down here because we all have customers of one kind or another. So customer centric leader, we use AI to better understand and anticipate customer needs so that we can deliver more personalized and responsive experiences while protecting privacy, consent, and trust. And those are key, especially as we are in the times that we are right now. So let's see here. We've got the resource and then yes, Russ, it's the AI elevator pitch. Boom. But it's particularly important because I know I get asked a lot about how do you use AI. So this little snippet really helps in terms of thinking through how do I use AI so that I can communicate it to those that are around me and that I'm impacting, as I go forward, leveraging AI. Because again, a lot of people are terrified by the concept of AI and how we use it. So here's my example for my particular company. We use AI. So my company's leading with AI, and we do training, we do consulting, and we do it around AI productivity improvement. We do it around workflows to help be able to do more inside of organizations and actually to automate processes. And we use AI to remove friction, cognitive overload, and repetitive work from leaders, educators, and consultants so that they can focus on higher value thinking, better decisions, and move more meaningful human impact, and then while protecting human judgment, ethical responsibility, and the dignity of real work. Now, I created that this morning ahead of the class just so that I'd have it as an example. I will shorten it because I like things to be shorter. That's a mouthful to be able to share. I could easily put that on a card. I could put that on something, but I would like to shorten that so that I get it down so that it is much more like an elevator pitch in terms of being able to explain it. So I can do one is my elevator pitch in terms of what we do, but then have an elevator pitch in terms of how we leverage AI to do what it is that I talk about us doing. So that's the reason why this is important as we are looking at how we communicate so that we have a framework that we can leverage to communicate. Now, 3 proof points that are particularly important for us to think about, and that is letting people know, how do we know that AI is working? That's one of the reasons I teach how to assess AI return on investment in terms of leveraging the use of AI. How much time am I saving? What does that equate to in dollars? What does it equate to and how much more I'm making as a result of it? So those are some proofs that I can provide. Evidence beats aspiration. And you see a lot of people that talk about, we aspire to do this, we aspire to do that, we're going to do this, we're planning to do this. No, evidence. What is it that we are actually doing and how is it impacting us and how did we leverage the AI to do it? So proof points turn leadership from opinion into authority. That's key. Proof points turn leadership from opinion into authority. So which of these 3 is basically the weakest in your organization or for you? Is it wins? Is it How are you impacted by this in terms of where do you need to focus on being able to provide proof? Okay, trust is built through repetition in visible spaces. So all the things we write down. So I know that change comes with first we think about it, then we write it down, then we tell somebody, then we do it. So most people, they think about it, they may get to writing it down, rarely get to telling other people, and then they have trouble actually doing it to actually make something out of it. But if you think about it, tell somebody, and then write it down, or if you think about it, write it down, and then tell somebody, you're much more likely to actually do it and be able to show and demonstrate what it is that you actually accomplished. And for consultants, sometimes you need to do it, even if it's for your own organization, to be able to demonstrate how it's done. I don't like to do anything in terms of working with people that I pretty much can't do myself, in terms of being able to walk people through it and show how it's impacted me and what I've achieved with it. So Gartner confirms that leadership communication cadence directly impacts digital adoption. Trust is built through the repetition, like I said, in visible spaces. So when we choose and look at the influence channels, we've got executive town halls where the senior executives or a manager of a larger area, or even a manager supervisor of a smaller area, brings everybody together and they share, and then the people can ask questions back. Colleges, universities have these for both the university faculty and staff, and then they also have them for students. Organizations, a lot of time, larger organizations will have them for the whole entire organization, can call in and be able to participate to some extent. When you're talking like 500 plus people, it gets harder and harder for that to happen, or they allow for the dropping questions into the box ahead of time so that they can prepare to be able to answer some of them. And then looking at this, board updates is a good place and should be a place that we're always updating and bringing about how are we leveraging AI, what are we accomplishing in the process of using it. LinkedIn thought leadership, if you're not on LinkedIn and not contributing your thoughts, I highly recommend it. Industry conferences, making sure that when your people go to conferences, no matter what the conference is about, that they are prepared to not just talk about their specific niche area, but that they can also talk about how your organization is leveraging AI, if that's something that's important to your organization to be able to communicate about. If nothing else, keeping them informed is important. Customer briefings, letting customers know exactly how you're leveraging AI. That's why I think AI use policies, AI tools use policies should, at a minimum, be out there and on your website so that people can look them up and understand how it is your organization's using it. Your terms of services, your privacy policies should contain, to a certain extent, that information, but having a AI use policy, an AI use strategy is particularly important, because then it can help narrow that down and make it very specific. Internal newsletters, again, communicating to people inside the organization is equally important. And then other channels. Other channels I think of as like different social media platforms where our customers and our staff are located and frequent. Also, YouTube. YouTube is the largest search engine on the planet. We should be communicating to a greater or lesser extent on YouTube about our organizations and companies, because it also impacts how people find us on the web. And then ultimately, the trust is built through repetition in these visible spaces. If you desire to be a thought leader, then you need to be frequently giving your thoughts out there and sharing with others so that they can learn from you and you equally can learn from them. So AI leadership is not about having the best technology. In fact, I would argue AI leadership is less about the technology and far more about the people and the processes. Technology comes to play, but we should be thinking about what are the problems, what are the jobs to be done that we are going to leverage AI so that we make the lives of the people inside and outside of our organization better. And with this in particular, I think your AI strategy should align with your already existing strategy inside your organization. It can be separate, but they should be intertwined. There should not be, in my opinion, an AI strategy that completely diverges from the strategy of the organization. The reason for leveraging AI is to be better at what we do, to amplify our people, to automate processes, to make it better for both the people inside and the people who will use our products outside, but making sure that we are focused on the problems that we already have, challenges we already have to leverage AI rather than trying to do something novel. It always drives me nuts when I hear people talking about, we're doing this AI project over here. Well, how does that tie in what you're already doing? Oh, no, this is something completely new. Well, if it's completely new, the odds are so stacked against people of having something that's completely new that's going to revolutionize and change the world. It makes much more sense to leverage how you use AI inside your organization so that you're improving and making it better. So whoever controls the narrative controls adoption, controls funding, controls employee confidence, controls market positioning. This is not speculative. It is documented in many AI adoption studies. So if you stepped away today or stepped away tomorrow, would your AI vision still be shaping decisions? How effectively have you communicated your vision, how you're effectively using and overcoming challenges and problems, and you're being able to quantify or at the very least qualify what it is that you've accomplished leveraging AI and how you're safeguarding everybody inside and outside your organization by leveraging it. So with that said, I'm going to step back. We are done a little bit early today, which is good because we then won't run over if we have questions and things. But I'd like to open it up for any questions or thoughts because you're all thought leaders in your own right around this area. A lot of you are chief AI officers, or you're already in the process of becoming chief AI officers, or you're consultants in AI. So what are your thoughts with regard to the importance and how we should approach communicating how we leverage and use AI, and what channels are you using? What approaches are you taking to be able to communicate your thought leadership out to the world and engage in? I come from academia and we talk about engaging in the conversation. And that's from my very early in my career. So when you're out there going to conferences and you're out there pushing papers and you're out there speaking, you're engaging in the conversation that helps ultimately shape your discipline. And in this case, we're all engaged in the larger discipline of leadership and AI. So how are you leveraging it and what are your thoughts?
Great. It's Tracy. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Tracy.
I've seen it mostly used, at least initially, using case studies. But I'd be curious to know, because I've come up against this a few times, and I'd be curious to know if anyone else here on the call has run into this, having a little bit of pushback from clients on running case studies. To me, it's a no-brainer, and I'm a big believer in them, and I know what they can produce. So I'm curious if anyone else has come up against that as well.
So what is if you could qualify the pushback?
Well, it's going to take too long. We didn't envision the process, being this involved. I think a lot of people, even C-suite, mostly C-suite, think that you're going to come in and this is going to be a very quick brain dump, for lack of a better term, that you're going to, fix everything in a week or two, and it's going to be a lot of work, but in a very short period of time. They don't realize that this is very much an iterative process, and then depending upon where they're at, the company's at, it could be even longer because obviously you're assessing that. So I don't know if it's that they just don't fully understand what a case study is, or maybe they've had some done in the past and they didn't see the benefit of it. But it's a little disconcerting to me. And like I said, I'm just kind of curious if you or anyone else has come up against that.
So I'm going to ask if Mark raised his hand to actually piggyback and help address your question, or if he's got a separate question.
To help piggyback and answer.
Okay. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, Tracy, I think you've got a really good point. And we were looking at a couple different approaches over the past, call it 18 months. case studies, use cases. Let's build that out. And what we found is that they're at the leadership level, or at least at the decision-making level, we had to basically look back and say, where's the alignment? What's the leadership trying to achieve? And the pushback really came from the fact that most people just didn't understand what we were trying to do. And so we've now really gone in with a really low entry price for a high value ticket. We're actually doing one on Thursday, in fact, where we're aligning all the leadership together, because the CFO gets it. He's like, "Yep, let's go forward. Let's go forward." The head of ops is, "No, we don't want this. I'm not wasting time, energy, and effort, and that's not going against my budget." Right. So the objective behind that, and we've sent them off information to say, here's how to prepare to get thinking about this, is let's get everyone aligned. Let's get everyone in the room so they understand what the objective is. And then from there, you guys decide, what do you want to do next? And sometimes it's, we want training on how to use these tools. Sometimes it's, yeah, let's do a pilot. Let's do something. And so sometimes use cases or case studies, things like that, might seem a bit more overwhelming. So we're saying, look, let's just start with something really simple and small. And so we're building that relationship and that trusted advisor role. And the other bit, just to add to that, is, so where we come from, where we started, is we were one of the first pioneers of voice AI. We came in way too early. We were, oh geez, well, literally this time 3 years ago, we were selling voice AI. Nobody had ever heard of it. They didn't understand it. And so the pushback has always been, we don't get what we're trying to do. And so let's just do something really small. And since then, they've heard about all of these epic failures. They've tried it, it doesn't work, or they're afraid. So instead of doing a larger project, let's look at something really small, and let's get some buy-in on there. Kind of sub $5,000. It seems to be working. And even in, we're talking to Coca-Cola right now, and they're like, yeah, we just want something that's under $10,000 before we go all in on this stuff. So that's my feedback, if that helps at all, and happy to answer any questions.
No, that was really good. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Russ?
I'm just thinking about everything that you said today, and it takes my brain a little bit longer than most for it all to sink in. But I was just recently, one of my projects is that I've cloned a few of my clients, and so we have digital twins, and it's all very clever and it's all weird, and the AI is fantastic and all of that stuff. But the bit that has blown me away is their reaction and their feedback when it got presented to them, that it was everything that they could achieve if they had this. And it was nothing, we didn't talk about the technology and the twin, and it was all about the results that it proved, which is really what you're saying today. And that's that clarity of where it's all heading for them and what's in it for them. And it's so easy for us all to get sucked into how clever we are or how clever the AI is. But the bottom line is what they will take away from it. Will they be more productive? Will they be more profitable? Is their brand going to be better?
Yep.
Yeah, it just makes me think the case study is a good tool and it's brilliant. But what do they want to achieve? What's in it for them?
Yeah.
It's
The what's in it for them is important. And I can't emphasize enough. If you don't know how to calculate return on investment, please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to explain how to do that, because the case studies coupled with, I know a lot about what Russ is doing, not what he knows about it, but we've talked about it. And the reality is the case study around what he's doing and the qualitative value as well as the quantitative value, because once they start really implementing this, the amount of time they're going to save, the amount of money that they're going to save in the process, and most likely the amount of money that they're going to see made going forward that they would not have seen if they'd have continued to do it the way they were doing it. That coupled with the case study, now you're talking about something that's qualitative that also has quantifiable numbers inside of it, which make those case studies much stronger. And that may be part of why you get resistance. Now, I'll tell you, I've written a book that I really had hoped to have out by the end of last year. And I am working on what's holding me up, ironically, are the case studies. And it was that my lawyer came back and said, because of the nature of AI, that we probably should aggregate our case studies. And so rather than naming specific, even where we had people sign off and they had given us the okays and everything to do it, because what it does is a lot of times organizations do not feel comfortable later because of something they said during a case study or whatever, or they've moved on, or they're afraid to talk about it because we are living in that world right now where things are constantly changing, and how organizations and individuals communicate things is so important. So aggregating case studies where you work with 2 or 3 companies and you can aggregate across them. We had an average of an increase of this and a decrease of that, so that now you're leveraging numbers to quantify, and you're leveraging what's happening, but you're aggregating it so that you've got your piece from your company. You can give the case study to each individual organization and they can do with it what they please. But then yours that you're using for your company, unless it's somebody you've worked with a really, really long time, I would suggest that aggregating them and just talking in general about the companies and things you work with, rather than tying them to a specific case study, unless, like I said, you've worked with them for a really long time and you think that they're not going to likely come back and have an issue. I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV, but I just want to make that important piece there, because the distinction is when you use those companies' names, you need to make sure that it's ironclad when you leverage their names in your marketing, even when they're given testimonials, because I'll tell you, the FTC in the United States is very, very very conscious of that, and it can be some really hefty fines if you can't even document where your testimonials on your website came from. You have to have all that documentation forever. And I'll tell you, myself in particular, we had to take down some of our testimonials that I had emails over the years, had held on to the emails, and because of some tech glitches, no longer had the documentation. We did not have it printed out. Who would have thought in this age that we needed to print out? And even in the backup process was old. We couldn't open it up. So we had to take some of those testimonials down and away. And some of them were really powerful. Fortunately, some of them they actually published in their own internal newsletters. And I had those newsletters that I quote from to leverage. But point being is make sure you have all the approvals associated with doing case studies. So with that, any other comments or questions? We're at 1:58. We've got time to take one more.
If nobody's jumping on. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tracy, please.
I was just to really quickly, what Grady said, that includes NDAs too, because those are getting a little bit more rigid. I've noticed. I haven't personally had a problem with them yet, but I have colleagues of mine that have, we've been signing NDAs for 20 some odd years. They're starting to get a little bit more robust now with AI. So just something for all of us to kind of keep an eye out. Off of what you said, Grady, not being able to speak about clients. Yeah.
And that's a part, if you're in leadership inside an organization, because I was inside an organization that had to deal with this. When you do NDAs at an executive level, you're not just signing for yourself, you're signing for your organization and communicating out that NDA to everybody. Because if you have somebody that's lower down on the food chain and they say something to somebody else, the reality is that they're breaking that NDA for the organization, especially if you signed it as you're signing for the organization. So we had to take a completely different approach to how we communicated out about NDAs and what the contents were, while at the same time safeguarding that the NDA didn't get out onto the streets as well. But everybody in the organization, if an executive signs on behalf of the organization, is responsible for maintaining that. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I know you all have different places you could be, and you chose to spend an hour here. My goal is to always give you value when you're here. Hopefully you got something out of this today that you can walk away and leverage immediately. And if not, hopefully we'll be able to leverage in the future. Please, if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts, or just want to provide suggestions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me inside of the platform. And you can also reach out to me at Grady, Grady, at drgrady.com. So Grady, Grady, at drgrady.com. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great week.
Thank you so much, everyone. Here
Thanks,
is
Grady.
the link again to the document that Grady shared. And thank you, everyone, for participating. And thank you, Grady, so much, of course. See you guys soon in the following upcoming sessions. Have a great day. Be safe. Be blessed. And Grady, you said that there was something else that you wanted me to.
Yes, let me go right here, exit out of everything so I can give you the link. I'm going to share my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you.
So here you go. I've got to get that other monitor. Are you still with me?
I'm right here. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I got to get that other monitor fixed because I'm traveling all over the screen here. Let's see, why is that not? Okay, let me try saving it again.
Yeah, take your time.
Copy link. Paste.